Hi, it's Ramadan back with another video. Today, this is my third video of the day, and I'm basically gonna talk about a term that has been misused, or it hasn't been misused, but there's different meanings of the term, and people only see it one way, but there's different ways of how this term can be used. And the most popular term of what I'm about to say is basically the term is institutionalized. And the most popular term for the word institutionalized means like when you've come out of jail and you're used to a set of routines and you've come out and you can't get yourself unstuck from doing those routines, or people who have come out of jail and can like get situated into real life, or like accommodated into like functioning into real life or like daily life outside of jail. But another term for institutionalized, what it may mean is the effect that different institutions have on us. And collectively, I'm talking about all institutes, not just prison, but all institutes like school, workplaces, hospitals, mainly school and workplaces. Hospitals and prisons, not so much, because those two terms are the ones that people pay attention to the most, because they refer to people that are broken, or people that are not well, people that aren't well. But institutionalized can go on to affect people that are normal or well within society. And that's what I wanted to talk about in today's video, talking about how institutes like schools and workplaces shape and affect us as individuals. Institutionalized means, a set of occurrences or norms within a certain institution that have been normalized, that go on to affect how we may become as individuals later on in life. And it starts off with school and then goes on to the workplace. And the emphasis of this video is to talk about the institutionalism of schools, the informal institutionalism of schools, because there's a formal institutionalism and the informal institutionalism of schools. And the formal institutionalism of schools is basically the things that we go about doing in our daily lives, like assignments, classes, homework, tests, exams, and studying, and just how we go about life, in school. But there's the informal institutionalization of schools, and this goes about affecting different, mainly the social aspects of lives of children or school going people. This may be like school going children or people like in college. And it just goes to talk about how, institutionalism informally shapes our social mechanisms, as how we act as individuals growing up. And I want to talk about things like how, things like peer pressure, or the need to fit in, or like the need for belonging in society has been changed due to institutions. Because when you think about it, during the different eras back then, before school had become popularized, or before school was um a thing, because back then you didn't have to go to school. Back then in the 1700s, in the 1600s, you didn't have to go to school in different parts of the world. Not everywhere in the world that people went to school. And it's just a new thing that happened, that people started going to school every day and became a must. And this became a meeting place for people and a breeding place for habits and norms. It became a breeding place for habits and norms. And I decided to talk about this personally because I feel like school greatly shaped who I was. I believe that some of the training that I got, or some of the habits or mindsets or paradigms that I got, were shaped from school. And if you know what the word paradigm is just basically a set of beliefs that we have about the world around us. And school, the informal institutionalization of the formal institutionalism of school, like it affects greatly how people's paradigms about the world are shaped. And that's why I'm saying, like, school has an influx of institutionalism on people, because it governs the way we act as individuals. Me personally, when I went to school, I was faced with like you know things, or happenings that shaped me as an individual, just like some of the occurrences that I had, some things like needs, some needs that I had as an individual that, I had to get, or like the fulfillment as a person that we all strive for as a thinking thing. And what I mean as a thinking thing is, when you become able to talk language, like from the immediate moment that you become able to speak a language fluently, a thing that can communicate is a thinking thing. A thing that can communicate is able to think about things in different aspects, It's able to distinctively like tell apart different things and just it is able to assert its will and coordinate different things in a way that organisms that cannot talk can. And that's why a thinking thing is something that starts when I call a thinking thing something that is able to communicate. And when we become thinking things, when we become of age to communicate fluently, when we become thinking things, we start having needs as individuals, and we start having we need to have fulfillment. And I started chasing fulfillment in different things, I had the need to fit in, or the need for belonging, you know. I had the need for belonging as an individual that shaped a lot of the decisions that I made, you know. Peer pressure made me do a lot of things that I did started from school. A lot of paradigms that I have about the world started from school. A lot of the ways in which I see things and the things that I want as an individual were shaped from the people around me. The things that I wanted from life were shaped from the things that I saw other kids around me in school having, And, school greatly shapes you as an individual, because if you went to different schools, if you see people that went to like a certain school compared to individuals that went to a different school, you will see that there's environments that are different within these schools, because these schools, first of all, they're built in different locations. They have um, different needs that they're catering to. They have, you know, um, some schools are stricter than others. Some schools run different programs from other schools, so they have different things going on within that school, different events and activities going by in that school, and it affects how we all see the world and how we think about the world. And me going to the schools that I went to greatly shaped like what I wanted from life and just my habits as an individual. And I think those are the two things that these institutions greatly affect us, what we want from life, and our habits and mannerisms as individuals, and our behaviors, mannerisms, and habits as individuals, and what we want from life. These are the two things that greatly shape us as individuals, and how these institutions do this to us, and how school, as an institution, did this to me. School as an institution made me go out and start becoming a party animal, becoming an alcoholic, or like a stoner. School did that to me because of peer pressure and influence from other kids. School made me become, like things like hip hop. School made me like things like hip hop. I didn't like hip hop when I was growing up at home. I used to listen to music. School made me like that. School made me want to do video games. School made me want to play video games. I remember when I was in primary two, which in America is the equivalent of second grade. There was like two kids in my class. One kid was called Malcolm, and another kid was called Juma. And these kids were basically lying, and they were lying. And one kid was talking about video games, and another kid talked about how he would go to the post office to play video games. And the first kid doubled down on the lie, and he said, yeah, he also went to the post office to play video games. And I told my dad later that week that I wanted to go to the post office to play video games. But when I went to the post office, I didn't find any video games there. They said they didn't have any video games. And I remember crying and being sad. And it was all because of something that another kid had told me. And this is just what I'm going to say about how schools can greatly shape, our what we want as individuals, our habits, our mannerisms, and our behaviors, and just what we want from life as individuals. And me, what I wanted from life as an individual, I noticed when I was studying in a local school back in Uganda before my dad got promoted and got a bit more money to take me to an international school. I was a pretty down to earth guy, pretty chill, pretty humble, didn't want a lot, just was happy with what I had, you know. I was pretty content. But when I went to the school, when my parents changed me and put me in a school with rich kids, that's when I started wanting a lot from life. I started wanting to become rich. I started wanting to change the way I act and behave, you know, because I was seeing things from other kids around me that I wasn't had never been exposed to, and the exposure kind of changed how I thought as an individual. I started wanting more out of life. I remember that was a point in life I wanted to become rich. I wanted to be flexing. I wanted to be balling. I wanted to be rich so bad, and that's where like all of these dreams started from. Because like I said, institutions, schools are a breeding place for habits, mannerisms, behaviors, and ways of thinking and what we want out of life. And basically what I wanted to say in this video is that institutionalism just doesn't mean, just like people that have been bad in life or have it bad in life that are trying to fix themselves or put themselves in a better spot. It also applies to you, a normal and, regular individual who's out there in the world that's going about doing his things, not knowing that he's been institutionalized, been brainwashed, because that's what it is. You've been brainwashed as an individual to think a certain way and do and perform things in a certain way. And being conscious is the first step to self-awakenment. Being self-awakened, awakenment. I said awakenment. It's the first step to being an awakened individual. It starts with self-awareness, being conscious. Consciousness, awareness, they're the same thing. But consciousness is the first step to being awakened. And basically, that's the info that I had to give y'all guys today. Just, food for thought. And you can add more. You can tell me more about it. Because what I did is present the idea. But some of you may have, when the idea is presented to you, you may be able to say more about the topic or feel more, think more about the topic. And I just wanted to present that as food for thought for you guys today. And I think this is my last video for today. This is probably my last video for today. And that's all I wanted to say. So thank you for tuning in. And if you stayed and watched the video all the way, if you liked the video and thought that it was very informative, I hope that you can like, subscribe, and share. And this has been Rama Didan with another video for you today. Thank you.